Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful Friday in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis. And fellas, happy Friday. Isn't it great? A little great Friday action, getting closer to the weekend. We're almost there. Home stretch right now.
This is a great Friday, man. Fridays are always great, but when you get a little basketball news dump on top of it, it's a good thing for a guy like me.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks in a row where Friday has kind of snuck up on me, where like last week I remember being like, oh, we're through a week of the show, and we're through 2 weeks, and man, these days are starting to fly by, but it's been a lot of fun, guys. It's been a lot of fun on the show this week.
Oh yeah, it's only going to get more fun from here. And that's the thing is, as those of you who are seeing the title and seeing us going live, we were going to talk some basketball today, and I posed this, and Curtis was saying absolutely not. I wanted to only speak about football. I want to talk about what Larry Worth had to say and Addison Nichols today. I don't care about basketball. I don't want to do it, but it's like, hey man, we got to do this for the people. So we've convinced him to allow us to talk a little basketball today here on a Friday. We'll get football though too. We'll talk about it.
Well, I'm looking forwad to diving into the defensive line and the linebacker depth again. But yeah, I'll hear you guys for a bit on the hoops talk. It's all good.
Yeah. We'll be brief.
I always think it's so funny when, like, in any season it is, if you talk about whatever's not happening in this very moment, people are like, "What? We're focused on whatever." Like if you talk about baseball right now, it's like, "Oh, we're focused on fall camp." Talk about basketball, well, it's fall camp. And then when basketball gets here, and you want to be like, "Oh, hey, spring practice is coming up," like, "Well, it's basketball," and it's like, dude, we're human beings. Like, there's 24 hours in a day. Like, our brains are big enough. We can keep a few thoughts in there at the same time, but we're going to touch on it all today. That's why it's we got a long show. We do it all.
Well, and that's the thing is people have to remember too, this is a 5-day-a-week thing. So when it's daily, you talk a lot, because if you combine it all, depending on if Carlton's on the show with us or not, it's usually an hour and a half. And so you combine all those hours, from doing the math right, carry the two. That's what is that? 7.5 hours?
7.5 hours.
Roughly. So yeah. So shut up. And we'll get to everything. All right. We'll do the best we can. So, but that being said, of course, little basketball talk off the jump here, as it was kind of pretty much already known, but now it's official. Arkansas has a date and a throwdown, apparently, because as you see here on your screen, it's the Turkey Throwdown between Illinois and Arkansas. 3 p.m. on Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, November 28th, at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Wow. What a name and what a graphic.
Are we going to embrace Turkey Throwdown, or
No.
are we going to protest that?
Stinker of a name, dude.
That's
It's
awful.
a stinker.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. But it's not going to take away from my excitement for the game. I mean, it's really cool. And yeah, we've known this is going to be a thing. We've been kind of waiting on all the official details. It's a big deal. And I tweeted this earlier along with the story, but it's just kind of the latest illustration, I think, of just the aura of John Calipari, man. He is his own brand. And this is probably not something that Arkansas basketball would have gotten if Calipari wasn't here. There's basketball played on Thanksgiving every year. It's feast week, right? Everybody's tuned in to those tournaments, where it's the Maui or the Battle for Atlantis or whatever. But for a one-off game in a neutral site like this, to be following Lions Bears on CBS, this is the first time on Thanksgiving Day that CBS has ever televised a college basketball game. And so it's going to be a lot of eyes. It's a marquee deal. This wouldn't have happened if John Calipari wasn't in Arkansas. It wouldn't have happened for Arkansas anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And, the first thing I thought about whenever I first heard about this game was, you remember these two teams were kind of supposed to play in Kansas City just a couple of years ago. Obviously, Arkansas did their part of the deal by beating Kansas State, but Illinois got upset by Cincinnati. And so we didn't get to see this matchup. The good folks of Kansas City were like, we got to right this wrong. We got to cut out the middleman. No play-in situation. These guys are just playing, just a one game on Thanksgiving Day. But yeah, you guys said it there. I mean, it's going to be fun. Turkey Day is also going to be Turkey Day is a fun day. And now the Turkey Throwdown being there. So the excitement's going to be there. I mean, early in the season, I know everybody, doesn't like to do 2 seasons at the same time. And I know there'll be a big football game that week, but man, that's got my attention. And I'm infinitely more excited for the Turkey Throwdown than I am for that football game that week, to be honest with you.
You know, you mentioned that that Hall of Fame Classic a couple years ago, and I remember traveling up there to cover that, and the whole thing, the entire time we were talking about Arkansas's non-conference schedule that year, it was like, well, you know, they'll get Illinois, and that'll kind of be the marquee game, and then, you know, like whatever, they'll play Oklahoma at the BOK Center, and it'll be decent or whatever. Everything to make that schedule quality hinged on them playing Illinois. And you're right, like it just didn't work out. And there were some dogfights there. The Kansas State game and the Cincinnati game. I mean, it was awesome basketball, but neither one of those teams wound up making the tournament. And so it really didn't do anything to move the needle for Arkansas. But I remember sitting there on press row, and a lot of times at these events, they'll have designated seats for coaches too, for like the next games. They'll sit and they'll scout the opponent they'll be playing the next night or whatever. And I remember the coaching staff for Arkansas being Keith Smart and Gus Arginal and all those guys, and they're sitting there, and it's very much like this shouldn't be happening deal. Because Cincinnati was pounding Illinois, and Illinois was good. They had the Kofi Cockburn kid. They had the point guard. His name escapes me, but he transferred to St. John's, but he was a big deal at the time. It was a freshman, Coleman Hawkins. Like, they had a lot of dudes on that team.
Is that a name?
Maybe.
Brad, they had some Millar kid.
Carbello, Andre Carbello is the guy.
Yeah, Carbello was awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just it was a wild deal, and it was like the game that was supposed to happen that never did. That's going to happen now, which is cool. But there's so many neat storylines that come with it. I mean, obviously, me and John were in Des Moines for that Arkansas-Illinois matchup a couple years ago. You know, where the Hogs knocked them out of the NCAA tournament. That was pretty cool.
Completely forgot about that.
You got Calipari's long-term buddy and assistant, Orlando Antigua, is there now at Illinois. You've got Big Z versus Little Z, Big Bro versus Little Bro playing against each other now. So it's just really cool, man. There's a lot of storylines. It's an exciting matchup, and two good basketball teams.
Yeah, and I think I talked about this too before with you, Curtis. Like, you know, we all together were at all the NCAA tournament games that Arkansas played in under Muss. And for some reason, that Illinois game is the one I remember the least about. Like, I don't remember anything about it. I don't know why. I know Arkansas won. I know they won. I mean, I think it was like by 15, something like that. But there's just nothing that stood out about that. I remember more about the Colgate game than what I do this game. So, yeah, so it'll be nice to actually see that type of matchup and to get there in Kansas City. But going back to the little graphic thing, and I got the turtle. So what is that thing called again with the cones? What is that? I want to call it a cornucopia, but I don't think that's it.
I think that is it. Cornucopia?
Is it? We need the chat.
Yeah. I learned this like last year.
Yeah. I think I had to make one when I was in elementary school, and I still have no idea what the point of it is. But
I think it's a nativity is what it is.
Well, I mean, they feel like they missed an opportunity to put an actual turkey in the graphic for the turkey throwdown.
That's a copyright issue. Turkeys are owned by a different company. They can't do that.
Okay, well then put a turducken on there or something. I don't know.
The only thing I'll say about this, what stood out to me the most, just about the scene or whatever, like the crowds were really good then, and it was post COVID. It was like that year right after that, so it was a little bit whatever, like watered down attendance or limited or whatever. But when you left those games, Kansas City was closed, dude. Like nothing was open, and it's right across the street from the KC Live thing. Everything was shut down. Like there was nowhere to go to eat or hang out or whatever. I'm just going to assume that was a COVID deal, because I really hope, especially for a 3:00 game, like we could check out that game, do what we got to do, a little post-game action, maybe somewhere down there, and then just go hang out and watch some football and enjoy the place. Even if it's Thanksgiving, like, yeah, they got to have some bars open down there. I mean, come on. People are going to travel.
That was going to be my thing, is like, yeah, if it's Thanksgiving. But no, I remember that too, Curtis, because like KC Live, I think we found one place that was open until kind of late. Like, and everything else was just closed. And I remember asking the guys, like, is all these things closed? They're like, yeah, because of, COVID and then the holiday. And I'm like, well, it's Monday before Thanksgiving. Like, I don't know. Thanksgiving's not a full week. It's a majority of the week, but it's not a full week holiday. But still, yeah, that was that. And I remember too, when Arkansas played Cincinnati, it was a really, really good game. Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Curtis, wasn't Audis Toney the MVP of that event?
He was,
because like 18 and 12 in both games or something like that.
And he held Jeremiah Davenport scoreless. And that
Man.
was after Davenport went for like 27 on Illinois the night before. And so it was this big deal in the scouting report. Like, who are they going to put on Jeremiah Davenport? Imagine that, a couple of years ago, that he was the focal point of a really important game for Arkansas.
Yeah.
And then he was not the focal point of anything for an entire year while at Arkansas.
I'll tell you what I remember about those games. I remember Audis Tony when we realized, like, oh man, he's awesome. He's like a 4 offensively, and then defensively, he's like a 2 through 4. Like, he could guard anyone. But I also remember Chris Likes. That was back when they used him as the free throw guy down the stretch, and he probably hit like 12 free throws in the final 2 minutes against Kansas State the game before. But okay, y'all talk to me about this for a second, because geographically, y'all would know better than I would. Arkansas plays Missouri on Saturday this year, right?
Yes, sir.
Kansas City, Columbia. Are they? How far away are they? How far is it? Like
2.5 hours, probably.
So hypothetically, you think there will be some Hog fans that go to Kansas City, spend Thanksgiving that day, and then, kill time, hang out in KC Friday, and then head over to Columbia for the game on Saturday? You think there's, that would be a thing people do, right?
I think that's an awesome little trip to put together. What would be really cool is if they were actually following through with the Mizzou game the Friday after Thanksgiving in Arrowhead.
Yes.
Like, that would have been a sick trip. But I'm going to see if I can talk you guys into us going on a little roadie for that. Skip your Thanksgiving plans. Join me. We'll go to Columbia, Missouri. You think I really love Mizzou, and I'll show you the ropes.
Curtis will be in his black and gold. He'll be ready to roll, man. But I also I don't want to make this about us, but I'm going to make this about us for a second. I want everyone at home to really appreciate the fact that when these things happen, we all start mentally prepping in our hands or in our minds of like, what are we going to tell our spouses or significant others? Because we just have to get yelled at over the holidays sometimes, Christmas you can usually avoid because there's usually not events happening over the Christmas holidays.
True.
At least not the actual days. But I'm already kind of going to start planting the seeds with Hillary of like, hey, by the way, I'm just kind of out on Thanksgiving this year. Just that whole weekend, like, you're going to have to go. You can go to Arkadelphia. I'm going to go to Kansas City. We'll call it a day. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't think I'll have any chance of talking my way out of it. That's like if there was a holiday that my family has to have, it's Thanksgiving. Like, they would rather me skip Christmas than Thanksgiving. So, we'll see.
Last year, I wasn't even going to try to talk my wife into the whole Battle for Atlantis thing in the Bahamas until, and this was we were already in November, and she came to me and she was like, hey, this work deal and everything, because she travels all over for work, but then they have some big events in special places, at Thanksgiving, Christmas time, whatever. She's like, yeah, in December, I got this opportunity to go to Hawaii for a week for work. How would you feel about that? And that's all I needed. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Cause I've been meaning to tell you, I'm going to the Bahamas for Thanksgiving. And it just so happened to work out. Me and Scotty had a blast down there. But the weirdest thing about that is, like, it was not a Thanksgiving feel at all. Obviously there was a lot of basketball, but it was just, different kind of cuisine and everything like that. We ate at Starbucks. That was our Thanksgiving dinner, Scotty and I. And then we watched Arkansas choke against Memphis, and that kind of ruined the vibes. But
Curtis,
other than that, it was great.
If you and Scotty hadn't gone on that trip, Scotty would probably be on the stream. True or false?
True.
That trip was a rough one.
Yeah, it was.
Also, Isaiah Campbell was in the Bahamas with y'all for some reason, right?
Yeah, he was. We actually we stumbled into him and Hunter Yurachek in the casino down there in Atlanta. So
just the fellas, man, playing
what
table
were they at? Can you say that?
Well, they were. Let's see. They were by the poker tables, but they weren't playing when we went by there.
Observing.
Yeah, they were kind of standing right there talking to each other. So.
Dude, what if they were what if they were involved in something? Maybe they were like the signals, they were given to the other people across,
Yurachek and Campbell just running a 2-man game on the blackjack. And
I know Scotty and I were really searching high and low in that resort to see if we could find Yurachek after that Arkansas and Missouri debacle, that football game at the end of the year. But it turns out he had already went back home. So
Well, here's the thing. If do go to Missouri or whatever for the game, I'm sure I'll be really welcome there, and I'm going to be really obnoxious. I'm not sure everyone knows I'm there and see what happens. But that's also the thing too, is like it'd be a great combo trip, and I think a lot of fans would if that Missouri game had some, like if the team at that time is worth seeing. Like if they're 4-7 again, I don't think many people are going to be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But
if they're 4-7 in football, that Turkey Day basketball game is going to be an event.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I just wish it was like on Friday. Now that now I look at it, but like Blake, this is a great point by Blake here in the chat. He says all they had to do was add the word "day" and it would sound so much better. Turkey Day Throwdown.
I agree. 100% agree with that. Actually, yeah.
Turkey Day is a fun thing to say.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Also,
Curtis, I know you played in or coached in some Turkey Day events in your time, because every like high school, college, whatever, they all name something stupid. Even if it's like November 7th, they'll be like, "Oh, it's the Turkey Trot" or something like that. Do you have any Turkey Day basketball memories?
I mean, my best Turkey Day memories, honestly, are from covering the Razorbacks. I mean, being in the Bahamas for that. Now, the year before is when Arkansas was in Maui, and I had the flu and COVID combo at the same time, and I was not even in Maui, so I was having to cover that crap from home, and I did not feel good at all. But thinking back to the coaching days, I don't know that we ever really played on Thanksgiving, because they were really big on if school's not in session, you can't play. Because then the school's got to front the bill for the dorms, and they got to pay for the kids for their meal plan and everything like that. And they were cheap, so they didn't really want to do that. Now we would be able to bring them back on campus, like Thanksgiving night or the day after, and everybody's throwing up because they're fat and full. But we played in some of those in high school. I can't remember the names of any of them, but we hopped on a bus and traveled across the state and did some of that before. And I don't know, man, it's a good time.
We never, like you said, it's never actually on Thanksgiving, because in high school you really just can't do that. But I remember we hosted a thing called the Turkey Shootout at Pineville Junior High.
I love that.
I was in 7th grade, and so the 8th grade team was really like the main team. But and there was about 50 something seconds left. We were playing Tioga, our big rivals, and I got to get in because there was just 50 something seconds left. And I touched the ball one time, dribbled it right off my foot, turnover, layup the other way, and that was it. That was my turkey. That was my turkey shootout memory, man. In the moment, dude, I seriously it was one of the worst moments of my life. But looking back, I'm like, that's kind of funny.
Well, see, I don't have any cool stuff like that, other than the fact that I may get canceled, because when I was in elementary school, I did dress up as a Native American, and with the feathers on my head and everything like that to
blackface.
Meet the Pilgrims. But hey, I actually have Native American in me, so it's cool. It's fine, So, but that's
why your family likes Thanksgiving so much, huh?
That's right.
That's
right.
why you're so tan.
Yeah.
So for all of you people who are accusing John of hitting
it's not
the bed,
makeup, it's heritage is what it is.
That's true. And if you have anything to say about it, that means you're pretty much racist and about my skin tone. So don't say anything like that. But
don't racially profile John.
Yes, please. It's 2024, everybody. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Get there. So I'll shout out Fishman, one of the craziest chatters we'll ever have. But
I love Fishman, dude.
Appreciate the donation. But talking about Arkansas playing Missouri, if they're 4-7, will Pitman still be on the sideline?
They're 4-7 now.
It depends on what the 4 wins. Like if he had one of those that were actually pretty good, maybe. But man, I don't know.
You think it'd be a win-1 for the Gipper situation? Like, oh, we're going to Missouri. We're 4-7. Because who do they play? They play Louisiana Tech before Missouri, right?
Right.
I think so.
I guess it would be 3-7 going into that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really don't see a way. I think at that point it's probably
because also too, you think the 2 wins that they had were in the first 3 games, you'd assume against UAPB and UAB. So you're talking about a stretch of 8 games where you had 1 win.
Multiple bye weeks in those situations too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if that's gonna fly or that's gonna happen, but either way. Going back to the Razorback basketball, and we know that there's other games that have been scheduled. This is for sure going to be the greatest non-conference schedule of all time that Razorbacks ever had, right? That's not even close.
It's gonna be when they're in the Champions Classic.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's gonna be really cool. I like that it's spread out because I've always been a big feast week guy, so I tune in and watch Maui and Battle for Atlantis, all those. It's just cool, man. Those tournament style things early in the year. But I like that it's spread out for Arkansas instead of having 3 games in 3 days that are pretty good, and then the rest of your schedule sucks. This is spread out, and that game is probably going to be the beginning of a nice little run there, because I think December, what is it, the 3rd? Then they travel to Miami, and they get that SEC ACC thing, a true road game. That's pretty awesome. Then the weekend after that, or the week after that, it's Madison Square Garden for Michigan, and you got some stuff in between there, but you got those games. I think they're going to get one more. They just got to get it across the finish line, which will be another neutral site type game against a power conference opponent, a regional matchup that would be really, really good. I think would rival any of these other games that they got going on here. And it would almost be like every week starting on Thanksgiving and going through kind of that Christmas break, like you'd have a banger of a game. And so I think that would be awesome. I don't know if any of them are going to be at Bud Walton Arena, but still, if they're going to be doing the neutral sites and things, I think it's cool that you're playing in Kansas City. It's drivable. Maybe they can get across the finish line with something here in Dallas. It's drivable. It's easy to get to. So if you're not going to be in Bud, at least play somewhere regional and close where fans can go to and make a trip out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I really like the schedule and how it will be spread out, like you said. And also, you mentioned it on Thanksgiving week. There's so much going on in sports and college basketball. It's nice to not have the like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or even Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday they've done in the past. Like just having the one game, when it is. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be an awesome game. And before that, you get to watch all the games. After, you get to watch all the games. Like it really is nice. And also, it's like the more I think about it, it's like the playing 3 games in 3 days. It doesn't prepare you for anything. That's not how the NCAA tournament works. You're never, other than the conference tournament, which no one cares about, it's like there's not really a benefit to your team. It feels like it can only really do bad. Obviously, getting to play 3 high-profile opponents is always cool, but I do like that it's just a one game. We know what it is. It's going to be a big deal. Kind of adds to it a little bit.
Yeah, and I was thinking too, with all the games that have been announced or potentially will be announced, like half jokingly, but is like the non-conference schedule going to be tougher than the SEC schedule for Arkansas? Half jokingly, because I think about the SEC. It's like I think that SEC thing. It's going to be good. I know there's going to be more quality matchups, but there's still going to be like a Missouri on the schedule, who I don't think maybe see any reason why they're going to be any good or anything like that. But that's where at least it's something to think about because of how good the non-conference slate is going to be.
Yeah, there's going to be some pretty awesome matchups for sure. But let's say you have these 3 or 4 really high profile games. The rest of them are not going to be that. They just aren't. Think about some of the games that have been confirmed so far. Is anybody excited really about these in-state matchups with UCA and Little Rock, or North Carolina A&T, or Maryland Eastern Shore? You know what I'm saying? Like
off a good year, man.
And so there's going to be some some clunkers in there too. But the SEC schedule, the SEC is going to be super, super deep this year. It really is. And I think it's going to be one of those deals where they might get 8 or 9 teams in the NCAA tournament. But I do think it could be better for Arkansas. Like, it's cool that you're getting Bama at home, but I'd like for that to be a home and home. Same thing with Kentucky. It's cool that you're going to Rupp and playing that game. But that should be a game that you get to play twice. Who are the teams that they're playing twice? It's Texas, Missouri, and is it LSU?
I think LSU is the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Tough year for Bud Walton.
A little bit. Yeah.
But
a little bit.
I think that Coach Cal, like obviously it being his first year, it's like a historic thing. Like, I think that needs to add to the appeal. Like, when Arkansas plays at home, it doesn't matter who they're playing. It shouldn't matter. I've always felt that way, that like people should get up for home games no matter what, just because it's, when you have a venue like Bud Walton Arena, you have to keep it like that. It doesn't just become a cool venue when number 1 comes to town. Like, I get it. It's early in the season. It is what it is. But I'm hoping that Cal's presence and people being excited for the year, and we'll see how football does and how it adds to it. But I'm hoping that adds a little bit of luster to those home games, even if it's not a great opponent. Because like you said, the games away from Bud Walton kind of promote themselves a little bit.
Yeah, I was even just looking at the schedule and everything. Like, I was just laughing about, because you get Alabama at home, which is good. But besides that, Ole Miss maybe will be a good home game, possibly. And then Texas. Like your other ones is Florida. Florida might be good. Georgia, LSU, Mississippi State, Missouri, and Oklahoma. I don't know. Just doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
At the home schedule. So yeah, it'll be fine. But at least you get Alabama at home and not have to go to. I think Arkansas's played in Tuscaloosa like 8 straight years and played in Fayetteville like 4 times. It feels like. So
we don't have to go to the BOK Center, right? Like that's not a thing.
That's done.
Thank
goodness.
That's done.
I'm not gonna miss that. I'm really not. Like I've gone 3 times and it's never really like been a super enjoyable experience. Yeah, I'm not gonna miss that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. Like between that and then also, no offense to anybody, so don't take it personally, but the game's down in that Simmons Bank Arena ain't it either. So like it's just there's always bad vibes and bad things that happen there too. So
remember when the lights wouldn't come back on last year?
That was fun. That was
they
fun.
Almost lost to whoever they played there. Furman.
Yeah. Was it? It started with an L, didn't it?
Lipscomb.
Yeah.
Who it was? Yeah.
Yep. Lipscomb. Because, and I remember laughing about it because the Razorback women's basketball team played UCA like right before that in Simmons Bank. And then when the lights weren't working for the men's game, they're like, oh, well, they have to like warm up or something. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like warm up from what? Like they've been on. You played a game here just an hour ago. Like, what do you mean? Right. So yeah, that was crazy times. But hey, electrical problems and things happening in facilities and whatnot, that never happens. There's never any issues there. So, well, I know we're going to actually talk more to some basketball, but also some football as well, because there'll be some clips we'll play because we did get to hear from a couple of the players, and we'll do that as part of your Arkansas Update presented by Davis & Garrett Insurance, your independent auto owner's insurance agency, securing what matters the most. Go see my boy Clayton over there. He'll get you all squared away and set up. All right, guys. So no coaches today. Well, first off, we got the email. They moved up the practice and the press conference and everything.
Practice, yeah.
I assume it's because of the heat. I mean, I guess we'll never know, but
that, and I mean, it's almost like, yeah. I mean, if they were sluggish the day before the scrimmage, like Sam said, and then they had that full long scrimmage yesterday, then it was probably like take the heat off of them a little bit and shorten practice up some. Probably a recovery day, because I'm sure a lot of those periods yesterday were live tackle and they're probably a little beat up. So
yeah.
The way that Addison Nichols described it, he said there are no days off from the grind. It's just some days it's a physical, some days it's a mental, some days it's just kind of knowing you're a technique day or whatever. But so today's more of they're getting the mental grind, the mental reps going on. But I mean, yeah, that makes sense. And I honestly, like I brought this up last week. It's kind of interesting because normally if your season opener's on Saturday, your scrimmages are on Saturday, you get that Sunday off, and it kind of makes sense. I've always thought it was a little weird that they're scrimmaging on Thursday, which makes sense because you play on Thursday, but that they just go right back to practice on Friday and Saturday. And so, yeah, I can imagine that today's practice, which obviously was shortened, was a little bit more of a walkthrough. I'd imagine tomorrow should be probably a little bit shorter, a little bit, maybe even indoors. Pitman talked about that as they're getting closer to the season, it's no longer time to go through as much adversity as possible. So, yeah, I think these next couple of days are probably a little bit more laid back.
Well, I can tell you this, that, we had a chance to hear from Larry Worth and Addison Nichols today. And we'll hear a lot from Addison Nichols because I think there were some interesting things. But, man, if there was ever, I think the entire offensive line, and I talked to you guys about this before, they could run for office, after this. It's amazing how, not just Addison Nichols, but Josh Braun, Fernando Carmona, these are just guys that speak well, give you some substance to their answers. They are very thoughtful. You can tell that they just got a good head on their shoulders and are going to go places. So it's just always interesting to hear from, I don't know if you guys saw it, maybe I think it was the Razorback Football Twitter account, maybe it was Hogs Plus or something, but they did this puzzle game with Josh Braun. I don't know if you guys saw that.
And oh my gosh. Yeah.
Dude, he just nailed it. And I'm like, dude, I'm sitting here I feel like a moron because I'm like, oh yeah, a forward. It was insane. He just got them one after the other.
Makes me mad because I wanted us to get that and play it because that was impressive. Dude's got a sharp mind.
Yeah. No. Hey, we can still play it, man. We could go on the fly if we want to. I mean, it is Friday after all. We can do whatever we want.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but it was pretty impressive. But either way, there was a couple of things, and I think one of the fascinating stuff that maybe we have heard about, but maybe haven't heard enough about, was about the relationship of Eric Mateos, Sam Pitman coaching together and the offensive line, because we know that in spring and also in fall camp, they're right there next to each other, and that's the main thing. So we'll start with this thing from about Mateos and how he approaches being a coach, and maybe some of the things that he really focuses on and some of his strengths that he has too.
I would say he does it. Sometimes it'll come off very confusing, and he'll catch himself and he'll reword it, or he'll teach us something and we might not get it right away, and then a few days in he'll come back and reteach it to us a different way, to where it clicks our brain better. And his whole thing is, this was what was great for me, because a lot of offensive line coaches, they have this is what they coach, this is how it's done, and this is what you have to do. He understands that everyone's different, everyone learns different, everyone plays different, everyone's body's different. So there are the things that he expects us to do every play, but he also has allows us to have the freedom to do things that work for us, which I feel like a lot of people don't really do. And that in itself really simplifies a lot of things for us, because we're not having to go outside of our, mental and physical limits to do things that don't work for us. It allows us to, be comfortable in something that we're good at doing, and it allows us to play to our strengths. So I would say that there's really a translating situation there. They both just really play off of each other. The Coach Pitman will say something, and then Coach Mateos will say something off of it, or vice versa. It's just a really great situation, and it allows us to be extremely, extremely knowledgeable in everything.
So to kind of give a little context there at the end, he was asked about the, having the two coaches with Pitman and Mateos there, and if there's like a translation of like, okay, if someone says this, does someone come in and say, well, this is what it means, or whatever it is. But I find it fascinating, because I think you laid it out pretty nicely, but I couldn't imagine being an offensive line coach or offensive lineman, and you have Mateos, who's your offensive line coach, but you also have the head coach, Sam Pitman, right there with you, which you love and respect, and where he's come from. But and it's got to be fascinating. They have to play off each other. They have to be on the same page. But what if they disagree? What if they're like, I don't know about this? Like, how do you correct it? But it kind of shows the approach, at least, that Mateos has, and how him and Pitman are on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. And the truth is, everyone is treated differently. Whether people like to admit that or not, like, everyone's coached differently. Everybody responds to things differently. Like, some guys, you can yell at them and jump on them and curse them out or whatever, and they respond to that, and it motivates them, and you get more out of them. Other people, you do that to them and they shut it down. They might need more confidence, or might need to be built up a little bit. And it's the same thing with how they learn, different techniques, different things that go along with the position. What resonates with some person might not resonate with somebody else. Some people need the hands-on approach of, let me show you, now you do it. Some people are better by reading or visualizing. So it's everybody's got a different approach, and it is challenging as a coach if you've got several different people to have an individualized approach, because it takes more time and it takes more effort. It would be a lot easier, kind of like Nichols was saying, for Mateos to go out there and be like, listen, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're all going to do it, and that's that. It's up to you to figure it out. But he's not doing that, and he's kind of going the extra mile to make sure that everybody's getting what they need out of it. So I like it. That's a good statement there.
Yeah, and I thought it was honestly really cool that Mateos was kind of transparent about that when we talked to him the other day, where he was saying, hey, me and Pitman, we're obviously, I come from that tree, but we're not the same O-line coach. He teaches certain things that he specializes in certain areas that I sometimes need help with. I specialize in different things. And so a lot of times it is that way, where he's teaching it one way, then maybe he rewords it. And sometimes Pitman comes in and kind of emphasizes it in a way that works. And yeah, that individualized approach. And that's why with this offensive line, and I know we were really hesitant about talking about them yesterday after the struggles of the scrimmages and the scrimmages the week before, but that's why with this group, it's going to be hard for me to imagine them just falling apart completely. Because I'm like, you did bring in older guys like Addison Nichols, like a Carmona, like a Blackstock, and you have these two very highly respected offensive line coaches working with these guys every day. I feel like it raises the floor a little bit. Now, we can still talk about this group. Are they going to be an elite offensive line? Do they really have that talent? And are they really going to be able to block the Landon Jacksons of the world? But I do feel like this group and their connectivity is one of the biggest strengths of the group. And really just this offseason has been a fun story to watch because we've talked about on the show numerous times how you can kind of feel the love in that room with those guys. They're all buddies. And so I still like, I'm trying not to waver back and forth and be like, oh, the offensive line's going to be great now. But I do kind of believe that this group can figure some things out here in the next 2 weeks, and we'll see how they look during the season. But I do buy what Addison's been saying, what Josh Braun's been saying about how much this group loves each other and how much they like working together. Now it's just a matter of if they can settle on a top 5 that they really like, stick with that, and we'll see how it works in the season and if they can stay healthy.
So, but here's the thing, and I'm not trying to start anything, but like, there's no way that any of us, and this is just goes in life, feel like we're always going to be at our best whenever we have our boss sitting right next to us all the time, like trying to do our job. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know it probably works, and I know that, you know, they're going to say the right things, and it may be something that's ends up being very successful. So I want to make that clear, but I'm just looking at it from the perspective of there's just got to be something weird about that, right? Like, I mean, any of us, any of the jobs that we've had, any type of career path that we're in, I don't ever feel like any of us would be at our best or be comfortable if our boss is just right there all the time, micromanaging or watching us. Because even if he's not saying a word and letting us do it, it's still uneasy having him right there, right?
Yeah. That's an interesting dynamic, and there has to be a really good relationship there between the two and a level of trust. I like the way that Sam Pitman has approached it, where how many times he said, I'm the most, you know, highest paid or overqualified GA, you know, in the country or whatever. And so he's really, whether it's true or not, you know, portraying it and putting across the message like, hey, this is Eric Mateos' offensive line. And I'm here to help him. I'm here to assist in the process. And that's probably pretty empowering for a guy like Mateos too, to where he still feels like his voice is really heard in the situation. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, nobody likes to be micromanaged or whatever. So, you got to have a unique approach, I guess, to make something like that work.
I want to touch on this comment here from JD Hog fan, because he says all this talk about Pitman being an offensive line guru, he just doesn't buy it. And he says that he did it at Georgia, but we haven't seen him do it here. Well, I just want to clarify that, like, we have seen him do it at Arkansas. I think that was kind of where he really made his name, is 2013, 14, and 15, producing some of the best offensive lines in the SEC, sending a ton of dudes to the NFL. I mean, you know, John said it yesterday, and I agree that the 2015 offensive line is one of the best in school history, and that's kind of where this whole idea of Sam Pitman went for. And also, even at Arkansas with Cody Kennedy in 2021, I feel like that offensive line was one of the better ones in the country. 2022, they did really well, aside from short yardage situations. And so I think that those two guys and their track records, you guys talked about the dynamics, and yeah, I think it's definitely fascinating. But I also think it's worth noting that with what Mateos has kind of proven in his short time as an O-line coach and Pittman's track record, it would be the exception to the norm if the offensive line stunk this year. Now, we saw that play out last year, so it's not like it's something that can't happen. But I think that's why I'm willing to kind of give these guys the benefit of the doubt. And frankly, I don't think I'm wrong for that. Like, I think those guys have kind of earned that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately I just kind of trust those guys to figure it out. I think you can make a real argument that the talent in the room is not on par with some of the top SEC offensive lines. I mean, that's not really even in, you know, I mean, a couple of these guys are coming to Arkansas because they weren't playing at other SEC schools. So I don't think I'm breaking any news here, but ultimately I feel like that group, they don't need to be great. They don't need to be elite. They just need to be all right. And I think this group can be all right. Is that fair to say? Is that too crazy?
Yeah. Well, it is fair to say, and it's a good point now for those who apparently are very, very confused about what's going on here. Somebody with a negative opinion, perhaps, of this football team rose a question that we just discussed, and you outlined a rational and somewhat optimistic viewpoint of the situation. We are not spelling doom and gloom for this football team. People ask questions, we talk about it. Okay. The head coach says the scrimmage rose some red flags. We talk about them. All right. Everybody relax. Get out of my mentions.
It's crazy. Every single show that we've done this week, if you check the comments, it's either you guys are way too positive and y'all are just telling us what we want to hear, you're pumping sunshine, or you guys are too harsh. You're overreacting. You're being super negative. I feel like that tells me we're doing our jobs right. Am I crazy for that? Like, I know that's a little optimistic from my point of view, but it's like, if you have half the side saying we're too mean and the other side saying we're too nice, I mean, just look at our comment section right now. You have people complaining that we're like being too nice, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like we just talk about the football team for an hour and a half, and you guys react to what you want to react to, and that's fine. But I think people are fooling themselves, or they think we're like, we have an agenda one way or the other.
Yeah, because to be honest, I'm going to speak for myself, but I want this team to be good. And the reason I want them to be good is not only just because, I'm not running from, like, I'm a Razorback fan. I grew up a Razorback fan. I grew up in Arkansas. I'm not going to deny that. And I think everyone knows it's very evident. But also just for us in our business and what we do with content, like it's always been said, hey, the team needs to be really bad or really good to make it out of it. Well, okay, they're really bad last year, so let's mix it up. I want to see them be really good. It's a lot more fun to talk about. It's a lot more fun to interact with people. People are in better moods. They're not just getting pissed off all the time, just being like, we just need to shut down the football program. We're never going to be a serious program, blah, like, and just wears. So it's like, we want this team to succeed, and we want them to be entertaining. We want them to be interesting, and we want them to be good. So if somebody's asking, hey, would you rather the team suck? Would you rather the team be good? I think we're all going to choose good.
Literally.
Like, yeah. So this idea that's like, you got this narrative. Yeah, shut up. Like, just crazy. Like, just stop. I hate that stuff, man. It's so annoying. But going back to the point with Mateos and Pitman, this was also, because we got two more clips I want to play. This was actually about the dynamic of Mateos and Pitman being together and coaching together. Because Addison Nichols also went into this a little bit more in depth too.
It's great. Like I said, having both of them together is a true powerhouse in offensive line knowledge. Being able to work with Coach Pitt on the field is something that I'd always wanted to do. I wanted to go to play with him at Georgia. He recruited me out of high school, and I wanted to go play for him at Georgia. And then obviously he got the head job here, and that ended up not working out. But now we're here, and I get to work with him and Coach Mateos and getting both of their knowledge. They both have, different ways they teach offensive line, and being able to learn both sides of their knowledge. Coach Pitt's just wisdom and techniques that he's gathered from over the years, and then Coach Mateos with his brain and his knowledge. It's something you couldn't ask for any better, honestly.
So I think it's fascinating because, one, he's talking about how he wanted to go play for Pitman at Georgia, and then when he came here, it just made me first wonder, like, so did Pitman maybe not offer him to come to Arkansas, or maybe they're just kind of like, we don't. If it was Georgia, yeah, but we're not going to Arkansas, because it seems like him and Josh Braun, which we'll also have a clip to play, guys that talked about how great it was for Pitman and how awesome Pitman is and how they wanted to play for him and coach for him, but then when he went to Arkansas, it changes things. But it's kind of just where come full circle for him, where now they are. Maybe it's in a better situation because you saw what they were able to do at other SEC schools, and now you get them now. But that's, to me, is also a fascinating thing of just how those guys have come full circle to play for Pitman now, even though they wanted to in the beginning, but just didn't want to go to at Arkansas.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And it's kind of an illustration of how recruiting works nowadays. I mean, this is a little bit different, but it's the same deal with, it's almost like recruiting high school kids that maybe you're not going to get, but you kind of shoot your shot. And then it's not a situation where if they commit to go somewhere else, then you just shut it down. And it's like, hey, the kid didn't want to come play for me. Screw that kid, whatever. I'm over it. Yeah. No, you keep those relationships going because there's a better than average chance nowadays that in a year or two, those guys are going to hit the transfer portal for whatever reason, whether it's just not working out where they went or there's been a coaching change or whatever. And then you already have that relationship built to where you can go get them. Situation there with Pitman, where you got some guys there who, really loved him, and he built lasting relationships that stuck with those guys for years when they were somewhere else. And then as soon as they became available, boom, here they come. And now they're with them. So it's definitely a long game in the recruiting world, unless of course you're who were they talking about? Was it Dix that
where they said they didn't know him from a can of paint.
yeah, he's like, I didn't know him from a can of paint. He hit the portal and we just had to contact him first. So there will be situations like that, but in a lot of ways, those relationships go back years and they help you out.
I remember that being a thing that we talked about, and a lot of people talked about, that when Pitman took the Arkansas job, he basically called every offensive lineman from every class and was like, hey, just a heads up. I know you're committed to Georgia on it. I'm not going to be your coach. Like, I, respect you and all that, but I'm not going to be there, and was very upfront with them. And I know obviously Josh Braun really took that to heart and appreciated that. Seems like Addison Nichols had a similar thing going on. But also I want to talk about Josh Braun, because I know he and Addison Nichols are not necessarily big name guys that everyone's like, oh, these are the guys you want every year. But think about Josh Braun's career. He goes to Florida. He plays a little bit. I think he started 1 year full time there. Didn't go great for him. Wasn't having a tremendous career. Comes to Arkansas last year, and despite how bad Arkansas's O-line was, Josh Braun was the highest graded player across the board just about every game. He was one of the only consistent pieces they had, but I mean, having a good right guard doesn't really do much if the rest of the line sucks. But it seemed like he was able to kind of reach his full potential a little bit at Arkansas. And so will that happen with Addison Nichols? I don't know, but I think, that's a good point, Curtis, of that's kind of what you have to do to exist in this era. Obviously, you'd rather have it be the Jaden Hazelwoods and Drew Sanders of the world, which, Pittman's obviously gotten both those guys as well. But I think keeping those relationships and having those guys that will circle back to you later in their career and maybe can reach their full potential with you is a big part of how you succeed in this NIL era. And we'll see if it works with this offensive line. So, we'll see. But Addison Nichols, I enjoyed hearing from him today.
Yeah, and also I'll throw into I think we had a comment talking about, Sam Pittman no longer being the guru status or whatever, the offensive line. Here's my take on that. Like, yeah, the offensive line was not good last year at all. And even the year before that, it was fine, but it wasn't great. Ricky Stromberg was really good, but still wasn't where it needed to be. My thing is I'm like, yeah, you want your coach to always be great at everything, but sometimes you're just going to have a couple of bad years. I mean, it's people who love Bobby Petrino, who I love Bobby Petrino, that people may forget. That dude got fired at Louisville when he started 2-8 in a season. In his final year at Missouri State, he went 5-6. Okay. So, or Missouri State. Yeah. Went 5-6. So does that mean that he's no longer knows how to coach quarterbacks and coach offense? No, sometimes it's just that way. Sports are that way. Not everybody can be Nick Saban where you're, winning your worst season's going 10-3. Jeez. Like, it's just not that way. Sometimes you just have bad seasons and you have bad years. But to go on with the Josh Braun, it's a perfect segue deal, is this was a really interesting thing with talking about him and Braun, Addison Nichols and Josh Braun, but also Addison Nichols kind of goes into, and we posted this on Inside Arkansas on our socials, about Sam Pittman. And it was a really interesting, but a really well put together assessment of Sam Pittman and why Addison Nichols loves playing for him so much.
We haven't talked about that. It definitely would be a great conversation. It is funny though, because Josh was my host when I went to Florida, so that's always a fun story that I like to tell people, because we make fun of him because he's really old. But yeah, it's one of those things where when you talk with him, even for the first time, you remember him. You remember who he is. He has a presence to himself, and you just know how great of a person he is. Even outside of football, he's someone that you want to be around. I feel like a lot of coaches, you kind of gotta get uptight and you're like, all right, coach is nearby, I gotta be all tight and stiff. It's just not like that with Coach Pitt. He's someone that you really truly want to be around. He's someone that you can go and sit in his office. I've gone in his office and talked with him about nothing related to football for an hour, 2 hours, and it's just one of those guys where his presence is just fun to be around. And that when you're going into the portal, how incredibly intelligent he is with football. And you also know that he's a coach that you want to play for. And it's someone that, you'll rally behind and go to war for, and you respect him and love him and want to be with him. So it's definitely one of those coaches where you just see him and you're like, yeah, like I can play for that guy.
So, like going with the Sam Pittman deal, which is, it's just so funny because he talked about, the visit him and Braun had and coming back to Arkansas and now playing together for Sam Pittman. You hear a lot about how likable Sam Pittman is, or how just like a regular guy Sam Pittman is. And some people either enjoy that or they get turned off by it because they don't care or whatever. But you can tell, at least from someone like Addison Nichols, and there's been other players that have talked about this too, about the approach that they have with Sam Pitman, where he is just like he's just a guy. Like he's very approachable and he's very, like again, people can take it however they want, but I think that there's still some pros, maybe some cons, but there's still some pros to still having a coach that has that approachability, relatability, and being able to just sit down and talk to the players about anything.
Well, I like everything that I heard there from Addison Nichols, and I just want those feelings to be the same throughout the course of the entire season. Because when Sam Pitman got the job, you knew he was a really good offensive line coach, and you knew that he was a great personality. So it almost seemed like the given with Sam wasn't, oh, he's going to be a great head coach, X's and O's, whatever. It was the guys are going to like him. The guys are going to play for him. They'll run through a brick wall for him. They'll rally behind him. And all of that felt true the first couple years. But the last couple years, and especially, down the stretch last year, it just felt like the opposite. And I wasn't in that locker room, so I don't know for sure. And I know they had a couple years ago some weird stuff going on with the strength and conditioning coach. I already forgot that dude's name. But that's what I think Sam Pitman needs, is that kind of, the team has his back and they're rallying behind him and they believe in him. And that's something that sticks, through thick and thin throughout the course of a season, because that is the part that I thought would never waver. And that's the part that I felt like was kind of sacrificed late in the season last year, when it just kind of felt like they let go of the rope.
That's really well said, Curtis. And while he was giving that whole spiel, I was kind of looking over at Larry Wirth, because I was thinking, I wonder, I'm sure he has a vastly different relationship with Sam Pitman, but I wonder how he feels hearing some of that and kind of being like, you know what? I am playing for a head coach that I really like and one that I believe in and all that. And I know there's a lot of people listening that are probably thinking, well, I don't really care if they're all best friends. I don't care how much they like him. You got to prove it on the field. And we're not disputing any of that. And so I think your point is 100% correct, Curtis. And that's the beauty of this whole thing, is as much as we're talking about this O-line and how we kind of believe in Mateos, believe in Pitman to kind of right the ship a little bit, it's going to get played out here on the field. And I think the reason we're talking so much about the offensive line is because it's kind of the position where, if that position turns out to be good, you feel a lot better about the entire team, literally top to bottom. If that position turns out to struggle, it might literally be the undoing of this entire coaching staff. I don't think that's an exaggeration to say. And so, yeah, I think it's there's going to be a lot of eyes on that position group, but it is refreshing to hear some of that stuff from Addison Nichols and know that, hey, these guys at least believe in what they're doing. Whether or not they're going to accomplish it, there's a lot of teams that believe in themselves that fail in the season, but it definitely doesn't seem like a group that is like worried or panicking or stressed out. And we'll see how that shows up in a couple of weeks.
Well, and to look at it from the perspective of, I don't know, you can make it a relationship, you can make it a marriage or whatever, but just my kind of takeaway from a guy like Sam Pitman, and I think you guys alluded to it a little bit too, was just how he's the type that if you believe in him, he's going to believe in you. But if you doubt him at any point, it's almost like it's going to hurt his feelings enough to where he doesn't believe in you anymore. He's just kind of like, oh, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to have to earn that back, because it's like, you should just believe in me. And again, that could be completely wrong, but that's just always the vibe I've gotten, to where if someone doubts him and one of his own players doubt him, even though he believes in them, it's kind of a personal thing almost. And so when everyone's believing in him, I agree. I think that it's truly like, yeah, they would run through a brick wall. But if they starts to have some doubt, starts to have some questions, even some that I remember Kendall Briles and Barry Odom both, when I think it was 2 years ago in spring, when we got to hear from them in a press conference, both of them started off where they had opportunities to possibly go to another job in the offseason, but they chose to stay at Arkansas. And both of them said, everyone asked why, they're like, Sam Pitman. Sam Pittman's he's the greatest guy because he lets me do my thing. And so it's not just players, it's been coaches and all of that. So there is an element to that where he has it, but at some point in time, and in some cases, it goes away. It leaves. And that's why I feel like it has to be something to where you're either 100% with him or you're 0%. You can't have a foot in, foot out. You can't have questions. You can't have doubts. You can't have anything. It's got to be, you're all in or you got to get out. That's the vibe I get, at least.
And I can speak to this from direct firsthand experience. It's a huge learning process and growth process as a head coach. And whether you'd like to admit it or not, it's so much different being in that front seat and being the man. And that's something that I went through as an assistant. I was a players coach and all the guys loved me, had great relationships with all of them, could have the hard conversations with them because they trusted me. And I was the guy that they went to and they were pissed off at the head coach, and I could, smooth everything over and we were good to go and everybody was bought in. And then I took over the head coaching position and it felt great right away. And we were winning some games and having some success and everybody was bought in. And you feel like, man, this is going to be something really special. Well, that's what happened with Sam Pitman. Like, he came in, the program was a mess, got some momentum that first season with, 3 SEC wins, and then they improve and they have the great season. But it's when you really start getting hit with adversity that you learn a lot about yourself and you have to adjust. We started losing some games, and I could feel some of that trust and some of that belief starting to slip. And I didn't handle it the right way. And I hurt some relationships and some trust with guys on the team. And looking back at it now, there are a lot of things I would have done differently, but I learned a crap ton from it. And it's the same situation with Sam Pitman facing that adversity over the last couple of years on a much, much larger scale with much, much more pressure involved on a daily basis. So, nobody's perfect, but we got to remember this is a guy who was an assistant coach for a long, long time that stepped into a completely different world and was just on an upward trajectory until he wasn't. And he's had to change and adapt, and probably some things he didn't handle well that he's learned from. And maybe this will be the season where he kind of learns for some of those mistakes and kind of gets back on track to where he wants to be as a head coach and a leader.
Well, and you just think about it, Sam's such a nice guy and a player's coach. I think that's undeniable at this point. And there's a balance there as well where, like you said, you can't be buddies with everyone when you're the head guy, when you're the guy calling the shots. And so I wonder if Sam looks back at some of that, and particularly maybe at his quarterback position last year, of things that he kind of let slide that probably shouldn't have let slide. And I think you have that respect and that belief from your players, but if they know they can kind of get away with anything, that's a little bit too far. So there's got to be a nice little balance there. And so we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to go through every player on the roster of 100 players and say, is he going to hold him accountable? Is he going to do whatever? They all kind of have their own different viewpoint of Sam Pitman and all that. But I wonder that aspect, and maybe having Petrino helps in that regard, because you have a little bit more of a stern drill sergeant type of coach there. If Arkansas has the nice mix of personalities with their top 3 coaches, with him and Williams and Petrino. And, I think it's a fascinating thing to talk about. And it's one of those things, frankly, that people don't want to hear this, but we don't really know until we know. Because early in the season, again, everyone's kind of saying the same things about, oh yeah, love my coach. We're all bought in. We love it and all that. But you don't know if your team's bought in until, like Curtis said, you start facing some adversity in the season, some real life changes need to be made, and then you kind of figure out. And so that's part of why I said this on yesterday's show, even amid all the trash talking we were doing of the football program. I said it's better to have this now, because I felt a few days ago where I was like, I kind of want to see this team face some adversity. Seems like they're getting some adversity in fall camp, and so these next 10 days or so are going to be a big time for this team to kind of figure out what their identity is, how they feel about each other, and how they're going to attack this season.
Well, and I've said this about Sam Pitman, and again, I've always liked Sam Pitman, but if Sam Pitman was the head coach of Arkansas 10 years ago, I think that it would be, 1, I think he'd be happier, and 2, I think he would be a lot more successful, because, and I know this at least from my sources inside, but this past year, as soon as the season ended, Sam Pitman had a meeting in one day with 43 different of players that were on the team, just kind of like an end of the season thing. 42 of those 43 players said, I want more NIL. Now, I don't think that's unique or, just only Arkansas, but that's stuff that I'm sure that just Sam Pitman, he doesn't want that. Like, that's not the type of football that he grown up wanting and coaching and everything.
What he signed up for.
Yeah. And it's like, because when he was the head coach in 2020, the NIL still wasn't a thing yet, but man, it happened, and it happened quick, and you got to adapt or die. I'm not making excuses, and sure. I don't think he will either, but that to me was also just another showing where if it wasn't the current state of football and it was strictly just coming in, playing your heart out, giving it all because you love your coach, you love playing and all this, I think it'd be a different element. But when I heard like that type of thing, and knowing Sam Pitman, that is a discussion. That's the thing he does not want to talk about. does not want to talk to any of it. It's just more like, hey, man, I recruited you. Just come play football. Like, let's just go practice. Like that's his thing. But that's not the current state of college football. And that's the concern, or at least one of the major concerns I have with Sam Pittman in the future of him is just, is he going to be built for that long term? I don't know. I don't know if he is.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is another layer that's been added to this everywhere. And honestly, like there are a lot of probably really good coaches who just aren't built for where this is headed with the NIL thing. I mean, you're seeing it a lot in college basketball where guys who had tons of success just don't want to deal with the NIL thing, can't deal with the NIL thing, and they're getting out, or they're going to the league where it's a different situation, or they're not having the success they did in the past. Virginia is a prime example for me. The way that they built their program over there and won a national championship, it was just like a machine. It was almost like what Dabo had going on at Clemson for a few years there. But as soon as NIL came around, everything changed there. And the program's not what it once was. And you have to just adapt or move on. And I wouldn't want to deal with it, man. I really wouldn't. And especially, you know, while it hasn't been regulated, it's just kind of a wild, wild west situation. That's tough, man. It's a tough job.
Yeah,
it definitely is. I mean,
and you get paid for the job. Okay. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I see Fishman here saying that NIL literally ran off Nick Saban. I mean, Nick Saban admitted that was a huge reason why he's not coaching right now.
Yeah. Jay Wright.
And obviously Saban is a guy who found a way to adapt pretty well. I mean, it's not like Alabama fell off a cliff here over the last few years, although if you read the internet, sometimes people think so. But I think that's also another factor of everybody in the country is dealing with this. And every year it seems like there's almost a completely new set of circumstances. So I think anyone who's sitting here trying to tell you like, oh, this is definitely going to go this direction in college football this year, they're lying, because it's the wild, wild west, dude. Nobody really knows how there's so many variables that they just didn't have before. And I think that was kind of John's point of why it's so much different now than it was 10 years ago. And so, but I think that's also a reason where it's like any college football program can be good in this era, because it's just completely wide open, especially with a 12-team playoff. And so we'll see how Arkansas adapts. We'll see how Sam Pittman adapts. But right now, and like I said, it's kind of tough because we just kind of have to wait and see. We'll find out if they lose that Oklahoma State game. We'll find out who's not happy about their NIL situation. We'll find out who's not happy with their role on the team and who doesn't believe in their head coach or position coach or whatever. But as of right now, the vibes are seemingly good, and so we'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, man, it's tougher than ever to predict how college sports are going to play out, just because, again, there's just a billion variables that we didn't have even 3 years ago.
Well, I just couldn't imagine in the offseason, just like, Arkansas didn't have a good year this past year, but as soon as the season ends, you're having, and you can even say if Arkansas wins 6-6, wasn't a great year, whatever, but they have to go to a bowl game. So as a head coach, it's like you're having to prepare for a bowl game. You have the early signing period that's happening like right off the bat as soon as the season comes to an end. You're having to make sure about high school kids. You got guys of your own players that are heading into the transfer portal. They're ones that you don't want into the transfer portal, but you're constantly having to negotiate with them essentially about like, well, if I go into the portal, I got this school that's saying this. And then even if you say, okay, we'll do this, and they agree to it, doesn't mean the next day they'll be like, hey, they offered me more, so I might do that. And then you're having to balance that out while also having to get guys out of the transfer portal to come to your program because you got to build your depth back up. I mean, again, like you said, Curtis, they get paid a ton of money, so I'm not feeling sorry for them. But let's be real. It's extreme. I could not imagine the annoying frustration, because that would be me. Like, dude, you told me you'd play for me if I did this. I did this. Stay. You don't. That's what you need to do. But there's no holding anyone to that, because it is the Wild West. There's no. Somebody could say, Coach, I'll be here if you give me $400,000. Okay, we're good. Next day, well, I need $500,000. Well, you told me 400. Well, now I need 500. If not, I'm leaving. Like, you can't do anything about it. So I just could. I'm looking at it where, yeah, you get paid a ton of money. That's all well and good, but to be successful at your job during that stretch and during that time, I just couldn't imagine the frustrations and the like pulling your hair out that you'd have to do, especially if you run into some of those kids, which I'm sure there have, where it's like, dude, you are not worth that much money. You are not worth that much money. You are lying to me that you said this team would pay you this. Ain't happening.
Yeah,
So,
and it's only getting worse. I mean, the cost of doing business in the transfer portal and basketball, like it doubled this off season versus last off season.
God.
It's just crazy while it's unregulated. And to go to what you were saying, John, like I wonder, and I don't even know if they could ever get to a point where this would be acceptable or approved. But like I wonder if there will ever be a situation where there are contracts. To avoid this kind of thing, like, okay, you're agreeing to stay here and play if you have this much NIL money. Yep, we'll agree on our part. You sign here.
Mm-hmm.
And
have to have a buyout or something
if there
like
becomes,
that.
like performance incentives, or, hey, if you're getting paid this much, but we're not getting our return on investment, then we can cut you or we won't pay you or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different layers that could be looked at with this. And, I mean, who the heck knows where it's going to go over the course of the next few years?
Well, I mean, we've even heard talk of like the government kind of making it like their employees, where it would be like an official thing and stuff like that. But yeah, this offseason, I know Ole Miss baseball had a kid that like they signed to a very lucrative NIL deal coming out of high school, and it was like a 3-year deal. And all of a sudden, he's like, actually, I'm transferring to Tennessee, making $300,000 more, and it's like, whoa, it's like. There was no real way for them to avoid that. It's like you sign a kid to a massive NIL deal, $500,000, and you kind of just start like, all right, we're good, right? But yeah, it's a completely different world. But I do also want to just clarify for anyone in the chat who's like, yeah, Arkansas is going to lose this year because they're poor and don't have NIL money. It's really not even about that. Like that is way too simplistic a way to look at it, because all these schools have resources. I mean, just go drive through Arkansas's campus and you'll figure out they got some resources. Drive through any of these campuses, everybody kind of has the money, but like you guys have said, it's like you don't even really know what you're up against. You don't know what the cost of doing business is. You don't know what each player. You don't know what's going to arise, and so it's so much more than just we need more NIL money, which obviously Arkansas and everyone needs more NIL money, but it's not even. That's a way too simplistic a view to just chalk it up to. Well, we can't adapt to this new NIL world. We're poor, and our head coach doesn't care. Like it's just. There's just so many variables that there weren't before, man. It's crazy.
Well, and then I'll also make this point too of like about Arkansas, the NIL and everything. I know, like you said, Curtis, it's changed each year over year. It's gotten much more money, because I remember how insane I thought it was when I think Tex Ags was like signed a kid for $10,000 to do an NIL. And I at the first game, I was like, oh my gosh, that's absurd. Well, then that quickly was chump change. But it's like you have. In this modern day, especially with Arkansas, think back to after that 9-4 season. All right, NIL was a thing and all that. Who are the players that you got out of the transfer portal? You got a 5-star Drew Sanders. You got a 5-star Jaden Hazelwood. You got Dwight McLaughlin. You got Landon Jackson. You got Latavius Breen, who was a starter at Georgia. You got some bona fide dudes and studs that came from major universities that came in. Okay. So did they come in just strictly of NIL, and then the next year the NIL went away because now you couldn't do that? Or they come in because they may have got NIL plus going to a winning program or season? That's what it is. Why do you think Missouri did so well in the transfer portal this year? Or why is Ole Miss doing well in the transfer portal? Is it because, they just got millions of dollars or just throwing? Or it's because, at the end of the day, yes, kids want NIL, and whether you like it or not, but also kids want to be a part of a winning program. They want to win. So keep that in mind too. It's not, yes, it's a lot about money, but a lot of these kids also just want to be part of a winner at the end of the day.
And kids have short-term memory too. Whereas if Arkansas were to go 8-4 this year, you think any of them would care what happened when Dan Enos was on campus? No, they don't. They have short-term memory. You're just going to go to whoever you saw on TV the night before. Like that's really how it works in the world. So yeah, there's just, but I disagree, John. There is no nuance to this. Arkansas is poor.
Yep, they're poor. Poorest place there is. They just, that's why Cal came here. That's why Cal Perry came here. He's just like, you know what? I wanted to help out the poor schools.
They got rich that one night, but they're no longer rich.
Pass the 50-50. This is ridiculous.
Please, for all that is holy, get the 50-50 pass, dude. Because
we have a built-in excuse for the season, by the way. If Arkansas stinks this year, and if they don't get a great class in December, it's all because of how the university shamed Carleton.
Yep. And we're gonna I'm hoping that if it comes to that, I'm gonna go fight City Hall. I'm gonna go down there to the Capitol, and hopefully I get a chance to speak in front of whoever I need to speak in front of, and look really official and just be like, saying it's like, the floor recognizes John Neighbors of Inside Arkansas, and then going to say thank you for all, and just go through it. And really, I will do that.
We should go out there, Inside Arkansas protest. We're locked arms and we're just ready to roll.
Go on.
Crooked Oaklawn Casino.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, go out there, go on like a hunger strike, but not really.
Bad people.
Yep, they're bad people. The thing about those Oakland people, they're not good people. Very nasty people that are out there. Yeah, that's what it would be great. Hey, listen, the way things are going, it might get to that point. The way things are going. All right, so okay, I did pull it up. We'll see it because like we're talking about this video that Josh Braun did with Hogs Plus. Andrew, did you see it?
Yes, I sent it to Curtis actually right away because me and Curtis that day had been talking about how Josh Braun is just like his brain is different.
Yeah, I was gonna play it and see it because since we all watched it, I don't think we can really play it, but I still want to kind of like play the video itself and just to show like the smarts on this kid and talk about it, and we'll do that here in just a second. But first, I want to tell you, folks, of course, we're brought to you by Hopper Termite and Pest. Pests are the worst. You have to deal with them. Luckily, I haven't had to deal with them, but I have known people that's had to deal with them, and it sucks. Nobody wants to have it. You need them out of your house because not only does it impact your house, but it impacts your health physically and mentally. So call Hopper Termite and Pest, and they'll get the job done. They'll eradicate it right then and there, and they'll come out and get the job done. You can call them at 479-750-4070, or you can check them out online at callhopper.com to see all the different services in the service area that they offer, not only in the Northwest Arkansas area, but also in the Central Arkansas area. But again, if you call them at 479-750-4070, you use my last name, Neighbors, they will not hang up on you. They'll actually give you $50 off your very first treatment. So you can't get a better deal than that because they're going to take care of it and you get money off. So call them today at 479-750-4070. It's Hopper Termite and Pest.
All right. I almost called them yesterday, and I'm going to tell you guys this story real quick.
Oh, okay. So I was going to ask you about the story, but yes, go ahead. I wanted to hear this one.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is the same story or not, but anyway, I almost called Hopper Termite and Pest yesterday because I feed the dog in the morning. I take him for a walk, right? That's just what we do. And he, I don't know, he was walking around sniffing. I usually don't pay that much attention. I'm scrolling on my phone while I'm walking. Well, I look over and he's like rubbing his face and his neck on the ground. I'm like, what are you doing? It was another dog's poop, man. Like he's just rubbing his body on it. So I was like, what the heck, dude? Like I got to give him a bath now, wiener dog. So we get back to the house and I'm irritated at him and he's got like, feces on his neck or whatever. And so I throw on the shower and I throw him in there and I grab the shampoo and I come back and I go in, I'm getting ready to bathe the dog. And there's a huge spider in my shower. And I have to make a decision. Like, do I find something and kill this spider right away before it gets my dog? Or do I pick up my dog that's covered in feces and get him out of the way and then get it all over me? Like, it was a dilemma that I just didn't want to deal with. And so I might just need to call them. That way I just don't have that issue or that choice to make moving forward.
Oh,
I want to give you a pro tip, Curtis. Yeah. I've learned this lately because where I live, for some reason, we're just kind of, I'm not gonna say where I live, but we're in a weird area where we're by a bunch of woods and stuff. It's just the bugs are crazy. Like it's
like some Amazon rainforest looking critters, man. Like,
yeah, it's weird. Like they send people to our house, like the landlords send it like once a month, but I have all the sprays. Hillary has her own concoction of stuff, but I've learned that like stepping on the spiders and like killing them that way, the worst thing you can do, because something about when their like guts and stuff get, when their insides come outward, it attracts other spiders for whatever reason. And so it's like, if you step on them and kill them that way, it's like an it attracts more. So you got to get your at-home sprays, your Raid or your whatever, and just drown them. Dude,
it turns out that this one drowned in the water, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an effective way to do it. But man, there's nothing. I feel bad saying this. There's nothing more satisfying than just soaking down a spider or a little family that you find and just watching them just stiffen up. Man, it's tremendous. Man,
this turned into Animal Planet quick. Like
during the summer, dude, the bugs are so bad. I've been dealing with spiders and stuff all summer, so I also need to get in business with Hopper, and I might need to just have one on staff nearby that just comes by once a week.
Dude, you know the promo code, so we're good.
Yeah, last name, just use it and get $50 off. No, real quick, Curtis, I thought you were going to talk about the story about apparently the cops came to your house.
Oh, yeah. That was nuts. Yeah, it was like 9:00 last night, and I was just chilling. I was doing some work on the website, and the doorbell just rang, and that never happens at night. Like sometimes we'll get the people who are, selling solar panels or whatever. They'll come in the middle of the day. But the doorbell rang and I was like, what the heck? And normally I just wouldn't answer it. But because it was later at night, I was like, who could that be? And so, yeah, I answered the door, and very nice, but like fully decked out Fayetteville police officer. And he was like, we received a 911 hang up call that pinged back to this address. So we stopped by to make sure everything was okay. And I was like, yep, everything's okay here. And so like, I checked my phone to see if cause like sometimes you'll accidentally do that emergency SOS dial or whatever. And wasn't me. And so like, it came from somebody else's phone, but he was like, hey, I just got to ask, like, are you home alone? Like, you're the only one here. Is everything okay? And I was like, hey, you can come, take a look around if you want to. And he's like, no, I was just making sure everything's okay. And then he left, but yeah, apparently someone's phone called 911 around my house, and it pinged back to my address. So they came. So like, I did the thing where I like opened every closet, and like went in the garage and was looking around like, no, there's nobody here. So that's good. But yeah, it was a little bit odd, man. And because a couple weeks ago, I was just laying in bed, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this loud commotion in my living room. I walk in, and I've got one of those Alexa things, and she was just reading off tomato soup recipes. And I was like, nobody asked you to do that. Why are you doing that? And so between that and a ghost with a cell phone in my house, I really don't know what's going on, man. It's kind of,
you know what it is, Curtis? You were jamming earlier that night to that Sean Kingston song, Somebody Call 911.
That might be it.
Shorty fight it. And Alexa called 911 thinking that happens sometimes. That does happen sometimes. Did you reach out to Brooks Both, by the way, to make sure that it wasn't him?
Brooks Both was in his garage playing the drums, so I think he's good to go.
You don't think while he was jamming, he didn't accidentally call and do an emergency call?
Either him or his roommate. But yeah, they've got like an entire, it's almost like a CrossFit gym set up, and then a drum set. And sometimes karaoke. It's entertaining.
I'd imagine so.
Well, now I'm glad that nothing like
Hopper, by the way.
Yeah, call Hopper, by the way. Yeah. Well, I was just because when I saw your tweet, because then I guess like Aaron Torres tagged me in the tweet, and because I was indisposed last night, and I see this, I'm like, what happened? I was like, did somebody get in trouble, or like, I don't know. It's all
deal, man.
I'd say, because with my run-ins with the police here recently, apparently of getting into jail and whatnot.
Yes, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why everyone thought that. All right, so let's play this video, because again, I think it's pretty cool, but we're gonna have to do it in a weird way, so that way you can still hear us while also playing the video. So yeah, we're gonna do that, but like I'm sure this will go really well. Here we go.
1 in a million. Happy hour.
Okay, so this is just to explain it. He's getting these little puzzles. You have to see it, folks, if you're just listening via the podcast, but you have to see what's going on. But essentially, he's just getting these little puzzle pieces, and they're like, what would you call them? Like mind games, maybe?
Yeah,
Sure.
I couldn't they're not like anagrams or anything, but it's like little. I don't know how to describe it, but like, yeah, if you see them, you can kind of figure them out after. But like, he's getting these suckers immediately, dude.
The first 3 here are pretty easy, but
yeah. So it's like
Crossroads.
Okay, this one I'll admit I was struggling with.
I still don't even know that.
Metaphor?
I don't remember.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yep.
Metaphor.
All right, so this one was
Scrambled
also
eggs. This one's easy.
Yeah, this is a good one.
See, well, because again, I'm a moron, so I can't. I don't know these things very easily.
Scrambled eggs.
Okay, this one I feel like was pretty easy. I got this one.
Yeah.
I remember I got this.
You
one
are
easy
in
too.
trouble, or are you in trouble?
What about this one?
This one I would have. He got it way quicker than I would have.
Yeah, this one was incredible.
Thought, but overthought, but on second thought.
That's
like,
really
are you
good.
kidding
That's
me?
Really good. Yeah, that's
dude,
sharp, man.
This one, it took me a little bit because I tried to pause it every time I was like trying to play the game along, but I was like, it took me a bit, but I think I ended up getting it. It took
Try to understand.
Right there. Like, I think he just guessed that. I'm just like, dude. Okay, how about this one? Did y'all get this one?
I like once he said it, I was like, okay, but like it would have taken me a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
grabs. Up for grabs.
Dude.
Gosh,
Yeah, this one
this one
Still-
was easy enough.
yeah, this one was
Forgive, forget, forgive and forget.
that one was pretty good.
He got this one immediately, I feel like.
Yeah.
What goes up must come down.
Boom. So
I feel like it's solid.
yeah, so
I'll
that
say.
was Josh Braun like doing that thing, man. Like that was better than it. I know I barely passed high school, so like I know I couldn't have done well in that, but
Yeah, that's
yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Brain teasers is the right term. Shout
Brain
out Bot
teasers.
Magnet for brain
Yeah.
teasers is the right
Thank
term.
you.
We were trying to figure out a term, and that's it.
Yeah. Do you guys ever have done like, is there certain games, like stuff like that you guys like the exercise of the mind things
So,
that you've done?
I used to do the like New York Times crossword like online. I wouldn't actually get to New York Times, but like online, I would do that here and there. Have y'all ever played Connections?
Don't think so.
It's okay. I'm telling you, once you start doing it, it'll become a thing. Like Hillary does it every day, and my dad, she got him on it. He does it every day. But it's like there's 16 words, and you have to put them in groups of 4. And so some of them will be like famous wills, and so it'll be like Smith and what, like it'll be like the 4 words will be whatever. But it's like you have to group them. There's just 16 words all kind of scrambled there, and you have to split them up into groups of 4. And so sometimes they'll be, there's like different ones. Like a lot of times it'll be like blank this but it's pretty fun, and I really enjoy that. So if anybody's never played, wants to do something like that, just the New York Times Connections, just Google NYT Connections. You can play every day. It's pretty fun.
Did you get into Wordle? Did you guys do
I
that?
played Wordle for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that in a long time. Is it still a thing?
I haven't done it in a while, but I would assume it's still a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I do the Sudokus. That's about as crazy as I ever got.
Oh yeah,
When
those
I
are
was a
fun.
Kid, I love Sudoku.
Yeah, and there's a game that since I hate flying, I'm a nervous flyer, and it's weird, and I'm weird, I know. But like when I'm flying, I have to play a game on my phone. It's called 1028. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Mm-mm.
It's just this
1028.
Yeah, it's because again, I'm a self-insert. I swear, sometimes like I just don't really know. I just try to figure out. But yeah, it's a fun little like puzzle game.
2048
or 2048. Yeah, sorry,
2048. 2048. Yeah. I
That's what I
played that.
meant.
I used to
Sorry.
love that game.
Yeah, that's the game that I play all the time. So
I feel like I did a lot more of those things before the times of taking your phone to the bathroom.
yeah,
Like you'd have the book of crosswords or Sudokus or whatever, just kind of by the towels.
I used
Oh,
to get a Sudoku for Christmas sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I'm trying to think. There's another one that I really like. But yeah, I feel like Curtis, you would like 2048.
yeah. It's
Math.
again, it's one of those games that like it's a build up, and the second like you go so far, but the second you have one mistake and it just ruins it, and then you're just like, I never want to play this game again. But then you
Were
do.
y'all on cool math games back in the day?
No, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, dude, y'all are older than me. Then that's the issue, dude. Back when you were like in school and you would have to be on the computer, and on the computers at school they block everything except for educational stuff. But like cool math games used to have unlimited fun stuff.
When me and John were in school, we were playing Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
On like the Windows 98. So
Dude,
Yeah.
dial up.
dude, did you
play those, like 3rd grade adventures, 4th grade adventures, 5th grade? Like we used to play those like little CD games.
Curtis,
Oh, those are good.
did you have to do pause, PAWS for typing, learning to type?
Oh yeah.
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 I hated that because I'm like,
Yeah,
this isn't even fun.
Keyboarding class was weird, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the floppy disk.
Dude,
That's right,
I was going to
man.
bring that up. I remember playing the Oregon Trail on floppy disk, and it was like literally, like I just think back to that time. I'm like, I thought we were like cavemen, just like looking back on it, just like in the floppy disk, because there was the little square like hard disk, but then the floppy disk was like the size of a book, and you like inserted it into like it was like an ATM machine, and then played it that way. Ugh.
Okay, Robert says that he still plays Wordle, so I might get back on that.
Yeah,
Start
I just
testing
wish
the
like
mind
you
a
could
little bit.
play. I wish I could play just like sometimes I do one and I'm like I kind of want to keep going. What was your first guess always on Wordle? Would you switch it up?
Yeah,
I would always.
Yeah.
I think train was one I used to do a lot because I try to get a lot of vowels, a lot of like word letters that are prominent.
Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, there was.
What
Yeah,
were
there
the
was a lot.
the grids?
Oh, those like sports grids.
Yeah, those are cool.
I really, weirdly enough, never got super into them.
Scotty used to spend some that was pretty cool.
But yeah, like there would be some like getting the rare score and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've seen a few, like there's a new there's a version of that for everything now. Like they have ones with like actors now of like, here's this movie, here's this year and whatever. And you kind of have to find your thing.
Yeah. I also had the, going back to the game thing. I also remember Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego was like a geography, educational game. And then also, I remember playing all those games on my T83 calculator. I don't know if you guys ever did those, but yeah, golly, this is. I'm old, dude.
Let's go.
It's like I already felt old enough after last night, and I'm feeling really old now.
Y'all are too.
Why
old
did you feel old last night?
Just things that happen. People I meet.
Yeah. Well, why did you feel old, John?
Yeah,
just a weird statement to make.
I just started. I had this cramp in my shoulder. I woke up in this morning. It was the pains of just growing old, man. Just growing old. So yeah. Also I played Roller Coaster Tycoon. Still one of my favorite games. Like I love that game. Yeah, that
y'all never played like the Disney Channel games back in the day, did y'all?
I don't. No, I wasn't a Disney guy.
This one Lilo and Stitch cooking one that I would play when I was like 7, and you had to like make the sandwiches, and there's like a conveyor belt. I like vivid memories of that. There's gonna be one person watching that played that same game, and they're gonna be like, "That was a banger."
Well, Kingsley asked, "What was the TI-83 game about selling drugs?" I remember this. It was named different, but it was called GTA. It was like Grand Theft Auto, at least the version I played. But it was like there was another name for it, though. I do remember. So yeah, it was like one of those like, oh, don't tell the teacher because you're dealing. It's like, oh well, if you sell this much cocaine, you get this like all this. And he's like, I was like, we were in junior high. He's like, man, we were learning about the ins and outs about all of that. So, man, I love going down a trip down memory lane on all.
Great
this.
Friday.
Reminded of stuff you forgot about a little bit.
Yeah. A few other little random. Speaking of random like stuff to bring up, since we're about to close up shop here in a few. You saw that Connor Stallions got a job, right?
Did he? Where?
I saw that this morning. Yeah.
Yep. He is the defensive coordinator at Mumford High School in Detroit.
Dude, their film work is going to be great.
It is.
Film study with Coach Stallions. That's going to be great.
When does his Netflix doc or whatever come out? Is that in a couple weeks, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know the date, but I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be pretty fast about it. Because, there's just a lot to that story. I want to know more. By the way, shout out because here higher ed guy says, Andrew, I know exactly what you're talking about with that Lilo and Stitch sandwich stacker game. Great memory. So there you go, Andrew. You've been justified.
I knew there was gonna be at least one person who would know what I'm talking about. It was a niche one.
Oh gosh.
Shout out Lilo and Stitch, by the way. They got a live action coming out. Have y'all seen that?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm a big Lilo and Stitch fan.
I'm just gonna say this. I hope that this doesn't get us in trouble.
It will.
Stitch says the N-word. Like I'm not kidding. Look up Lilo and Stitch right now, and you'll see they released like a little 6-second video, and it's like him breaking through like the logo and kind of just like looking around and being Stitch. He says something, and it sounded a little close to the N-word.
Blue punch buddy.
Okay, hey, by the way, we're talking about old games. I have to say something real quick. I completely forgot about this. The last when my sister came in town a couple weeks ago, y'all know that arcade on College? It's like by Einstein Brothers and all that. Yeah, it's called Way Back, maybe. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, but we walked in there at like 8:30 on a Saturday night, and the dude was just kind of like talking to us. Oh, what are y'all doing? And then we realized it was cash only, and we were like, oh crap, we don't have any cash. He was like, hey, just go play, man. Just y'all go play. We had 3 kids with us. Just let us play for free $99. We had a freaking time, but I wanted to give a shout out to that guy because Arcadia, it's an awesome place. Yeah. It's just a bunch of old school, like some of these games that we're talking about that'll just kind of bring back random memories. But shout out to that guy. I don't even know his name, but he let us in for free and we had a blast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that place is cool, man. Really cool.
And I've heard a lot of people that have similar experiences like you did, Andrew, with him. So I don't know his name either, but apparently he's just a great dude. So
don't abuse that. Bring cash, but just letting you know, it's good people that run that sucker.
Yeah, don't go in there and be like, well, Andrew Ellis said that I didn't have to have any cash. I got for free. Yeah.
Mention Andrew Ellis and get free gameplay at Arcade.
Yeah, don't do that.
Drop that.
Give him a lot of money and then mention me and be like, Andrew Ellis told me to give you money. And then, Then we'll be good.
I want to bring up this because I always find it funny whenever biopics come out about certain, like there was a run where it's like if you were a famous musician, you had a biopic. Like you had the Elton
We're in
John
that
one.
run now.
Yeah, the Queen one. What's that?
We're in that run now because there's like 4 Elvis movies that have come out.
Oh yeah, that is true. Like there's been a lot of that. Well, this one's not musicians. This was some. I don't even know what to make of this. So, anyways, John Madden's having a biopic made after him. Very famous.
All right. I didn't see this.
And it's he's going to be played by Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. That's wild.
Like, how? Why?
They're going to get a fat suit on him, I guess.
They should have
not shaming John Madden, but
now who else is getting a biopic done and is getting played by a famous actor that doesn't necessarily make sense? I feel like one of you guys told me about this recently.
There are no shortage of those, Curtis. Literally no shortage. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I brought it up on this show. Like, as like,
it was like Ben Affleck or something.
Yes.
Who is Ben Affleck playing?
Dude, I got to look it up. It's going to drive me crazy because it was something absurd. Where it's like, no way that he's playing.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. This is interesting.
God, that's and then Megan comments Ben Affleck movie. Like, we cannot think of the movie.
Yeah, because it was like, because I remember seeing it and how it was like, I thought it was a joke at first. Like it was something that like just didn't make any sense.
Such a good, oh crap, not that one. This one. This is a great comment.
Yeah, that was really good.
Is that Nicolas Cage's best movie? I actually like a lot of Nicolas Cage movies. I'm not afraid to say it.
Technically, he's in Into the Spider-Verse, and that's the best movie he's ever been in.
Oh, I was more of a Con Air guy.
Con Air's very good.
Anybody? Oh yeah, Hulk Hogan.
That's
right. Okay.
Long Legs recently. Scary movie. I went and saw it in the theaters, and he plays a weird character. He is dressed up. It's wild.
Yeah. Well, if you pick like in the movie Con Air, when he played like a long-haired country military, like, you know, awesome, like, dude, it was just like where'd that accent come from? You know, it's like that, but still a great movie, mainly because of John Malkovich. So, man, so there we go. Now we know. All right. Okay. I think that was all the other, like the stupid stuff that I normally like would want to bring up. So guys, since it's our final Inside Arkansas Live of the week, any final thoughts before we roll out of here? Oh, real quick. Sorry. I wanted to talk about this yesterday, but dude, Robert Griffin III gets fired from ESPN.
Yeah. How about that?
That's crazy.
After mouthing that croissant.
Man.
He tweeted something funny. It was a clip from one of the Friday movies, and he was like, how'd you get fired on your day off? It was pretty funny.
Yeah, he got fired, and Sam Ponder both got fired, which was controversial. So
yeah.
But anyways, I just thought that was pretty crazy. But yeah, any final thoughts for we roll out?
Nope.
Israel Adesanya is gonna become the first ever 3-time middleweight champion on Saturday. Really excited for that.
If he can see through his tears for the fight.
The true African champion will reign supreme. Curtis, it's okay for men to cry, okay? It's okay for men to cry when you make fun of their childhood. It's okay. All right?
Hey, Drigas did it to Sean Strickland. Sean cried, and then he took the belt from him. So there's a pattern developing here. That's all I'm saying.
Are y'all speaking about real people? Like,
John, are you aware that there is a South African guy in the UFC, a white guy from South Africa, who he claimed he was going to be the first real African champion, because there's been 3 UFC champions from Africa, but they don't live in Africa. They are not white, but he says he's the first real African champion. Now he's about to fight one of those so-called fake African champions. So you can imagine there's been a little bit of some heat in this one.
I have not heard that has not come up on my timeline here recently. But I'm sure it's going to be a very intense match, or whatever you call it, fights. So yeah, I don't know. Listen, hey, I'll be honest. I have no problem with UFC and MMA. Zero. I respect it. I think it's great if everyone loves it. It's just something I have tried, but I just can't get into. I'm in the big events.
That's
tried.
Who Ben Affleck is playing. Hulk Hogan.
John said that like 10
minutes ago. We
Did
established that. Yeah.
I've been sitting there scouring the internet for 10 minutes trying to find it, bro. It took me forever.
It would have been even funnier if we got done with the show and then we get a text like an hour later. Andrew's like, Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan. I got it. It's like, okay. Yeah.
I missed him saying it.
Oh, no, it's all good. All right, guys. Well, hey, appreciate everybody watching and listening in. This is now 2 weeks down of Inside Arkansas Live. We really appreciate all the support and everybody. We've been growing each and every week, and we're just going to keep it moving. We are 13 days away from Razorback. Felipe Franks days away from Razorback football. Starting
Deion
up.
Stewart days away for those that observe.
Deion Stewart. But it's been great. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to all of our stuff with our social media, but also check out our website, InsideArkansas.com. I have all great articles getting posted, written each and every day, dealing with the Razorbacks, and give you all the updates on that. And we appreciate all of you supporting us and appreciate everybody being a part of it. So for Andrew Ellis and Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you then.